Next, we make the bias strips that will become the straps to the Miranda dress. Fold and press the long edges of the bias strip to meet in the middle. Here I'm doing this with the help of a bias tape tool, but if you don't have one, you can simply fold the edges to meet in the middle manually. Then we fold the strip in half and press. Making sure your strap is not twisted, unfold the ends of the bias strip and seam it together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance for a continuous strap or a 1/4 inch seam allowance for tie straps. Finger press your seam allowance open and refold the bias strip along the press lines already made. If needed, repress using your iron. Complete this process to both straps. You'll finish with the ends of each bias tape sewn together, creating a bias tape loop. You should have 2, one for each armhole. Open the bias strip folds and pin it to the underarm, right side together, matching the bias tape seam to the side seams. Starting at the side seam, sew along the front and then the back of the armhole at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Use the first fold of the bias tape as a guide when sewing. Backstitch at the top when you get to the neckline. Fold the bias strip back into place over top of the seam allowance, encasing it inside the strip. Seam the bias tape closed to create the strap of the dress. Start at about 3/8 to 1/4 inch below the neckline, backstitch, and continue edge stitching to close the strap until you reach the other neckline. Continue past the neckline for about 3/8 to 1/4 inch and backstitch. To finish the underarm, we want to roll the bias tape to the inside of the garment with the seam allowance still encased inside the bias strip. Stitch in place at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, starting at the top of one neckline and ending at the other. Make sure to backstitch at the beginning and end of this seam. See the Miranda Dress instruction booklet for details on how to add an optional bar tack for additional reinforcement of the straps at the neckline. For those of you proceeding with a continuous shoulder strap, jump ahead to the next step. For those of you following along with me and wanting tie straps, determine the middle point of the strap and cut here. Knot the ends of the bias straps so they don't fray, and meet me at the ironing board for the final step in the Miranda dress.